Hello, guys. Hey, I'm Shay Davis, 20-year comic book veteran. We're going to talk a little bit about the anti-AI crowd versus comic books. Now, we've talked about all different parts of AI, the legalities and stuff like that. And I have kind of yet to weigh in on the artistic merit of AI. Now, that's kind of weird, right? Because it basically pulls from basically images that it can find off of Google, artwork, all these things, all your family photos. Google is basically AI is grabbing and learning from it and repurposing images to come up with stuff. And a lot of people are loving it right now. One of the people that are not loving it, though, is Disney, because Disney has asked Google to quit basically putting up any of their images on Google AI. Now, on top of that, YouTube has officially shut down multiple fake AI movie channels. So they're already getting ahead of it. They're taking this stuff down. Studios, I think basically Disney saying, guys, here's our lawyers. I imagine YouTube's like, you know what? Let's just pull all this copyrighted material down. If we don't own the characters or if they don't own the characters, it's probably problematic. So they're kind of getting ahead of it. Now, Andy Smith, the AI stuff is interesting in a sense. We've talked about the legal end of it. I'm actually interested in this tweet because it's gotten a lot of traction today. So Andy Smith, comic artist, say no. He goes, on the left is an artistic rendition of Cable, and on the right is my utilization of Gemini AI to render it in a realistic style. I think it's highly impressive, and I have no reservations about leveraging AI as a tool to play with my art. So back and forth here, he's traditionally a line artwork artist. He fed this into AI and it modeled it up. And it almost, I mean, proportionately, I see the proportions of his drawing are still there, but it's rendered like it's a video game, a statue, one of these 3D programming renders. And that's fine. I'm not discriminating against that. The question is, would I buy it? And we're going to talk a little bit about these takes, but I want you as a viewer, think about this. Would you buy this? And if everything looked like this, if everything was rendered like this, would you buy everything? You know, because that's really the question. It doesn't really matter what people think. The question will be, will you buy this? So we got Dave Johnson over here, and this guy is very anti-Comicsgate. For people who don't know, he was a speaker, a mover in back rooms that I got kicked out of. That was after certain people like Ethan Van Sciver and some stuff like that, like him and a couple other people. So he absolutely hates Comicsgate. So his response to this is, or I don't know, maybe improve your skill set. Now, this is coming from the guy who could not finish a Superman Red Son, one of the most prolific Superman runs, if not the only real Superman run by Mark Millar. Dave Johnson thought Mark Millar was a chump and wouldn't finish the book. Later, Mark Millar would prove that he's not a chump and do things like Ultimates and so on and so forth. But, you know, Dave Johnson is that snooty of a bitch that he just couldn't finish a book. Actually, you know, maybe his skill set wasn't up to the snuff that day. That's, I guess, a take that, you know, you could do. Although it's a bad take because Andy's saying, take my line artwork and which is completely two-dimensional. I don't care how much you render it, your grasp on three-dimensional shapes, the feathering and stuff. It is two-dimensional. It is ink, flat lines for the black ink on whiteboard. That's it. He said, take this and make it a 3D render, you know, highly detailed, realistic render, keeping my proportions, which it did. Okay, so bringing up the skill set, that's not what he was doing here. We got Neon from Clownfish. He goes, using as a tool to tweak your own work is an ethical use, in my honest opinion. Now, I'll talk a little bit about that. It's no different than a filter or perspective grid. Using a computer assistance is either cheating or it's not. And the people complaining the loudest about AI assistant already work digitally, which was considered cheating less than 2 decades ago. And a lot of the guys that are complaining about it, and there's a lot of people complaining about it from, like, say, the animation side of things, because that's probably where it's going to hit the most. I get it. I understand it. It's a huge threat. There's no way people aren't going to replace you with AI. I get it. And there's been this argument, will comics be replaced by AI? I don't know. Part of me feels like eventually, I guess, years from now, possibly, if comics are even still a thing. But the other part of me wants to say no, because breaking down a comic book page, if there's 5 panels, I have to pick 5 different panel layouts. I mean, there's infinite ways to lay out a 5 panel page, because every time one camera shot, one panel affects the other ones, the economy of the page, what panel's the biggest, leading the reader's eye around. But not just that, there's a rhythm, there's an impact. I can deliver a moment throughout the page and hit people with a page turn and stuff like that. There's a human factor. And as a comic artist, I see infinite ways to lay out a page or 3 or 4 pages, whatever, a scene. The one I'm going with is the one that I feel. And I'm not sure like how a computer would handle that. See, I'm looking at it like how it makes me feel, how I think it will make multiple readers to feel. I don't know if AI will ever understand that type of nuance, if it will ever understand that type of emotion. And actually, that's going to bring up another thing is all of the AI artwork looks the same to me. And here's the thing, I can doom scroll on Twitter all day long, on Instagram, AI stuff, and it's free. So why am I ever going to buy it as a product? Why am I ever going to buy an AI t-shirt? Like, why am I ever going to do that? You know, I'm not saying I haven't bought an AI t-shirt, but I'm more interested in the line artwork and purchasing line artwork than I am other things. Now, I do think things like coloring and maybe even lettering could eventually be AI. I do think things like that'll happen. And what Neon's saying here is like perspective grids have been a thing people have been using forever. That way they can get further vanishing points off their piece of paper. I mean, I came across them back probably like in the 90s, and I had a copy, and I would even make copies of copies and blow these things up to poster size. I had vanishing points probably in a different area code, because it's such a pain in the ass to get a vanishing point like a foot off your drawing table, trying to get the craziest perspective you can. And then you're just eyeballing perspective. I mean, things like SketchUp have been a thing where a lot of artists at Marvel were being asked to use it to draw an Avengers building. But like there was a whole era of Marvel artists that were using this. And for the most part, technology, whether it be computer lettering, which when I started working in comics, it was still being hand lettered. So I saw DC Comics transition into computer lettering. I saw DC Comics transition also into computer coloring rather than hand coloring. And like technology changes, but in the end, it's usually still people having to do it. The idea that AI is going to work in comics in a corporate level, somebody's going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not going to happen, because we all know it's going to happen. It's just a matter if you as a customer are going to even buy it, because that's really all that matters. Another take over here, the anti-AI retards will eventually have to come to terms with the fact that you should use AI to speed up projects instead of doing everything by hand, just because like this is going to be the biggest factor in at least corporations in putting comics out, is just how quick they can do it. The other factor is going to be consistency. So like for this to work, this book, to make a book like what Andy did here, for this cable to remain consistent, Andy would have to draw the damn book and have the proportions consistent throughout. I'm not so sure AI is there yet. I'm not saying it won't be one day, but again, that goes back to how many different ways an artist can lay out a page or a sequence of pages, and the different impacts that that sequence and layouts have on the reader. I don't know if a computer will ever understand that. And I keep going back to that. I know. Brums over here, he goes, is this okay to do? The anti-AI crowd is going to go nuts on this one. Well, probably because they're retweeting it, telling them to. Artists will use AI and are using it already. So Marvel and DC have been bouncing, Grunts might not know this, but they've actually been pulling and bouncing people out that who are using AI. But they're doing it for legal reasons, the same reasons YouTube is pulling stuff down now on YouTube, fan films. There's a reason, because of copyright of these characters and there being money involved, right? The other reason is, just like YouTube's pulling this down, Marvel and DC are deathly afraid of being sued by another artist that AI pulled their artwork to generate the artwork that they're publishing and they're selling and trading in. These lawsuits usually don't go too well, actually. So the idea that this is going to become the new norm, look, is it going to be another tool? Yes. My real take, and I know you guys are waiting for my real take on this, is if all comic artwork looks and is rendered and colored like this cable piece, it's boring as hell. Okay. For AI to work and it be a tool, an asset, I think it's going to have to become more unique. Because if I get hit with this same palette of colors on my stuff next to Andy's, to me, it just muddies together. Now, you're pretending like these are comics on the shelf and you have to buy them. You don't have to buy them. Comics has never been a thing anybody has to buy. You have to want to buy the comic. And the biggest problem with this dominating the comic book field is that AI generated fan art, AI generated videos of cats, of aliens, of He-Man, all of these things. Everybody's going to be doom scrolling that shit forever and never paying $1 for it. The problem that everybody forgets in AI working in comics is that, one, you have to want to buy it. And why are you going to want to buy an AI comic art when you can make your own AI comic artwork, or you ingest AI artwork all the time on your phone, on TV and commercials and stuff? My personal opinion is it'll be saturated. It won't be unique and people won't want to buy it. Now, I looked this up as a reference to this. Now, back in the 90s, was it the 90s or early 2000s? The Ultimate line at Marvel Comics was kicking off. Now, some of the first cover artwork for Ultimates was god awful. Now, this is Spider-Man, and this is Wolverine for Ultimate X-Men. Now, this was coming off of this new thing called Overpower playing cards. Maybe you remember, maybe you don't. In the 90s, there was this playing card game, and computer coloring, this type of digital painting was a thing. And it was getting rid of line artwork. And Marvel kind of really wanted to test the water so they could get rid of inkers. What if we could digitally paint a comic book cover? I had a few covers at Marvel during that time that were digitally painted. And one of the things that they wanted to do was come up with a style that would basically stamp across any artwork and you couldn't tell who drew it. Now, in the case of this, I think this is Joe Quesada drew this, and I think this is Joe Quesada also, but this is Mark Bagley, I think. Or I don't. See, that's the problem. I cannot pick the artist out on these images. Now, this didn't work, and eventually, if you followed the Ultimates books long enough, you would see them kind of revert back to the normal, traditional artist type style. They're at least drawing the cover. They let the pencil lines show through their faces, the way they draw things and render things start showing through a little bit more, because it needed to become appealing again. And comics actually pivoted away from this. But this was an actual thing that Marvel was really entertaining, because if they could say pay the colorist $10 more, pay the penciler $10 more, but get rid of the inker, they just saved, like, I don't know, $110. So that per piece of paper, per image, per page, cover, whatever it is. And they really played with this. And again, it wasn't just enough to cut somebody out. Again, this is the AI argument again. This wasn't enough to do that, but they wanted this unified look to make the brand look a certain way. And again, you don't see the artist you like as much. You see the brand and the character first. And personally, this didn't work for me then. And when I see the AI artwork and in the idea that being on a comic for me to buy, I have the same apathy towards it I did way back then and I do now. To me, it's like deja vu. It's not interesting. I didn't buy these books when they first came out. I waited and waited and waited and bought a collection or something like that. The interiors, they didn't do this with. But if they had done this with the interiors, I don't know if I would have ever read it. I mean, they were both good runs for the most part. I really like the Kubert Ultimate X-Men stuff. This, to me, is like the same all over again. Right? I can see people using AI to try to polish their artwork, but the idea of everybody doing it, nobody's going to stand out. That's my take on it, guys. Maybe you have a different one. Look, I think 2026 is going to be an interesting thing with AI in general. Just seeing YouTube start pulling down fake AI movie channels. The dust is settling. We're going to start seeing the legalities of this stuff. If you guys will hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification. Also, don't forget you can buy 9 Lives Comics on 9livescomics.com. These are our crowdfunded books. These are our extra stock that's in our shop. Go over here, check it out. Inglorious Rex, big kaiju battles, Starlight Cats, Little Girl, Cats in Space, Big Adventure, Extend. What if your video game came out into the real world? We'll catch you guys again with another video.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. Truth always hurts worse. Doing good till first reverse, now you last. Blast of the past. It's cool though. Last card, play it right. Uno. We never let up. Been down forever. Sick man, we fed up. Know that we tired. Wake up the beast that's been sleeping inside. It's time to ride. We ready to slide. Hard-headed, I will not listen. If you do not get it, that's your bad. Keep up in the sky like we see you feet up. Metal meets metal, it's no keeping up. Sniper division, it's no seeing us. This here is earned, ain't no hookups. So if you wanna eat, gotta cook up. Next level on the way, better look up.